This is a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
I'm Tony Brisky. Thanks for joining us. The jury has come back with a verdict in the Apple River stabbing trial and the charges against Nicolae Miu. Let's go to the courtroom right now to hear that verdict.
All right, we are back in session on the record in State of Wisconsin versus Nicolae Miu. The attorneys are present with Mr. Miu. 12 jurors are in the courtroom. Mr. Ashland, I understand you are the foreperson.
Correct.
Did your jury reach a verdict?
Yeah.
Did you reach a verdict on each of the 6 counts?
Yes, we did.
Okay, please hand the verdict forms to the bailiff. The verdicts read as follows. As to count 1 of the information, Isaac Schumann, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree reckless homicide as submitted. Question, did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count 2 of the information, Alexander Martin, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count 3 of the information, Dante Carlson, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count 4 of the information, Anthony Carlson, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count 5 of the information, Riley Madison, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of first-degree recklessly endangering safety as submitted. Did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. As to count 6 of the information, Madison Cohen, the jury finds Nicolae Miu guilty of battery as charged. Did Mr. Miu commit the crime while using a dangerous weapon? Answer, yes. Members of the jury, I do have to verify that this is in fact a unanimous verdict. So I'm going to ask each of you if I correctly read the verdict and if you agree with it. So when I call your name, if you agree with the verdict that I read, please answer by saying yes. If you disagree with the verdict, you can answer by saying no. Ms. Navarro, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Cook, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Snell, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Ms. Pelzel, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Diedrich, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Ms. McMahon, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Henderlong, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Mr. Ashland, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Ms. Lewandowski, do you agree with the verdict that I read?
Yes.
Any additional polling? No? All right. It is a unanimous verdict. Members of the jury, your service in this case is completed. You are free to read accounts about this trial. You are free to talk about this case with anyone. However, you do not have to discuss this case with anybody or answer any questions about this case other than from the court. So this includes the parties, the lawyers, the media, or anybody else. If you do decide to discuss this case with anyone, please treat any such discussion with a degree of solemnity, such that whatever you would say, you'd be willing to say in front of your fellow jurors or here in open court. It is in the public interest that there be the utmost freedom of debate in the jury room, and that jurors be permitted to express their views without fear of incurring the anger of any litigants or the public. For that reason, please respect the privacy of the views of your fellow jurors. If you do decide to speak, please only speak for yourselves and not for anybody else. On behalf of my colleagues, Judges Needham, Vlack, and Nordstrand, along with my courtroom staff, thank you for your participation in this important case. Court is now adjourned. Please take the jury out.
All rise for the jury.
There you have it. Guilty on all charges, but it should be noted the initial charges, first-degree intentional homicide, that's what we've been talking about lately here on the program, didn't make a lot of sense. So the judge allowed them to find him guilty of lesser charges, taking the word intentional homicide and changing it to reckless homicide, which he was found guilty on all charges, including the lesser charges related to the initial counts, changing it to reckless rather than intentional. What does that mean? Well, it likely means a less stiff sentence once we get to the sentencing phase of this case, which is set for a later date. And of course, we'll bring that to you right here on the podcast. I'm Tony Bruschi. Thanks for joining us for this breaking story of the Apple River stabbings. Press subscribe so you don't miss any of the coverage of the cases we follow for you right here. Thanks for listening.
This has been a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on True Crime
Until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.